Donald Trump has named Ohio Senator JD Vance as his pick for vice president. And if he's elected, Senator Vance would be one of the youngest vice presidents in history.
At yesterday's convention, Trump received a highly charged emotional welcome, with many praising him for his bravery. Senior Washington correspondent Tara Mergener has more.
A triumphant return to the campaign by Donald Trump and his first appearance since surviving an assassination attempt. Last night, he became the official GOP nominee for the third time. A dramatic scene as former President Donald Trump arrives at the convention. Republicans from across the country are descending on Milwaukee, many praising Trump for his bravery.
Even in the most perilous moment this week, his instinct was to stand and to fight.
And thanking God for saving the former president when a gunman opened fire at a rally in Pennsylvania.
On Saturday, the devil came to Pennsylvania holding a rifle, but an American lion got back up on his feet and he roared.
Earlier in the day, Trump became the official GOP nominee. Sons Eric, Don Jr., and daughter Tiffany casting all 125 delegates from Florida for their father, putting him over the top in the roll call of states.
The great state of Iowa proudly cast all of its 40 votes for President Donald J. Trump.
Trump named Ohio Senator JD Vance as his running mate. As vice president, JD will continue to fight for our Constitution, stand with our troops, and will do everything he can to help make America great again, Trump wrote on his Truth Social platform.
And elect Donald Trump in 2024. God bless you, sir.
At 39, Vance, once a vocal Trump critic, is now one of his strongest defenders. If elected, he would be one of the youngest vice presidents in history.
I think it sends a signal to our younger voters that we care about you.
Elected to the Senate 2 years ago, the Marine veteran served in Iraq and graduated from Yale Law School. A former venture capitalist, his memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, was a bestseller. Vance discussed his 2019 conversion to Catholicism in an interview last year.
We believe in the core truths of the Catholic Church, and we are devoted to it, not because it's always, again, perfect, but because its message is fundamentally correct, and it's the best way that we represent the gospel in a very broken modern world.
The convention's opening day sets up a week talking about Republican issues. The theme of the night, Make America Wealthy Again. However, with Trump's brush with death still fresh, the overriding message is for unity in the party and in the country.
We must unite as a nation. We must show the same strength and resilience as President Trump and lead this nation to a greater future.
President Biden criticized Trump's choice for VP, calling Vance a clone of the former president. Tara Mergener, CBN News.
Well, our chief political analyst, David Brody, joins us now. You called it right. You picked Senator Vance. Well, what's the reaction to the choice?
Overall, obviously very positive inside MAGA world, though, let's be honest, and we'll get to this in a moment, there are some grumblings from grassroots MAGA conservatives who are concerned about some of JD Vance's past statements about Trump. But overall, a very, very popular pick. And why exactly, Gordon? Well, he has economic populism policies, just like Donald Trump. He has more of that isolationist, non-interventionist, call it whatever you want, outlook on foreign policy. So this feels to me, Gordon, like a MAGA mantle legacy pick, someone that Donald Trump sees as carrying on the MAGA mantle for another generation. He's 39, going to turn 40 in just a few weeks. And so that's pretty much where we're at this point with JD Vance. There's a lot more to unpack, but that's kind of the highlights, if you will.
Well, let's talk about some of the highlights, and one in particular is that he called himself a never Trump guy, and it's curious to me. Trump is kind of famous for not forgiving, so here he is picking a never Trump guy as his running mate, and I assume the presidential candidate for the Republican Party 4 years from now. So what changed the opinion?
a meeting back in 2021, finally, a meeting between the two where JD Vance walked into a meeting with him at Mar-a-Lago and, let's just be frank about it, said, "I'm sorry." He apologized. He said, "Wait a minute, hold on. I said all that stuff about you. Absolutely, I did. By the way, the things he said about him, called him a fraud, an idiot, reprehensible. Said he was a never-Trumper. Said all of that, and then said to Trump, I was wrong about all of it. I've gotten to know you, and you're not that person." And then, of course, on policies as president, he was just, as JD Vance would say, amazing. And so he was a convert to the cause. And quite frankly, Trump loves nothing more than a convert to the cause. That's the whole point. And I think that's the way you'll see Republicans, or at least MAGA world, spin this, which is to say, look, yeah, he said that stuff about Trump, but then he saw the light. And, you know, I wish more Americans would see the light, would be their narrative going forward. And it seems, at least in this election, that more Americans are realizing that indeed Donald Trump is not exactly the media caricature that they're painting of him. And JD Vance is living proof of that.
Well, if I'm on the campaign staff of Joe Biden, and I'm not, but if I were, I would absolutely take every one of these statements and use it. And I would particularly use it if there's going to be a vice presidential debate, which this election year there certainly ought to be one. I would use that all day, every day. Is there any fear on the campaign trail that this is going to come back and haunt them?
Well, I don't know about fear, but they know that those clips will be used. And you're right, Gordon. Neither you or I are a Biden surrogate or a campaign advisor the last time I checked. But this is a no-brainer. This is a 30-second made-for-TV campaign ad by the Biden campaign. And let's also remember, based on what happened over the weekend in Butler, Pennsylvania, with the assassination attempt and this idea that it's time to lower the rhetoric, well, Biden can use J.D. Vance's words against Trump and say, hey, I'm not saying anything divisive about Donald Trump, but his vice president nominee sure is. I think that's probably what you're going to see.
Well, what else can you tell us about the background of Senator Vance? It seems that he's been on a rocket ship in coming to prominence just so quickly at just age 39. So what's in his background?
Well, he's got a great story. I mean, he came from a low socioeconomic background in Ohio, that Rust Belt area. His life story was made into a movie, Hillbilly Elegy. Glenn Close starred in the film. It was a New York Times best-selling book. It really is kind of a rags to riches story, because he gets out of that situation, and boy, it was dysfunctional as can be, and then goes on. Long story short, but he goes into the Marines. He eventually goes into venture capitalism. He goes to Yale Law School, and here he is as a U.S. senator. It really is a remarkable story. And so that's kind of the background. From a faith perspective, Gordon, he grew up in kind of what he calls a conservative evangelical world, a Protestant world, but he didn't really take his faith very seriously. At one point, he became what he calls an angry atheist. And then in 2016, he converted to Catholicism. He says St. Augustine was the reason he did it, in essence, because he felt like St. Augustine provided that intellectual approach that he needed to kind of get there, if you will, which is interesting. He says his public policy is based on his social Catholic teaching that he hears about all the time. And I think what's important here is that J.D. Vance is a very, very smart guy. And because of that, Donald Trump, what he saw in J.D. Vance was a guy that can communicate the MAGA message in a very smart, intellectual type way to the masses. And I think that was a big part of the selling point as well.
What can you tell us about his wife? They met at Yale Law School, and is she going to be active on the campaign trail with him?
Well, I think she'll be relatively active, but probably not as active as others possibly. And here's why: because she is of Indian descent. They have 3 children, and I think, and she's also she's a partner in a law firm there, so she's very successful in her own right. I don't think they're going to necessarily play all of that up But having said that, what JD Vance does do, Gordon, from an electoral standpoint, is help in the Rust Belt states. I'm going to try to say that 5 times fast. I should be able to say it by now, by the way. Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Those are the states that JD Vance will help in. And I know maybe Donald Trump doesn't need all that help right now because he seems like he's been on a glide path to the presidency. But you know what? A few months is a long time in politics. You never know. Bottom line is he'll help in those Rust Belt states. My goodness, I'll work on that during the break.
Well, you're certainly right. In politics, 3 months is a very long time. I thought last week that we'd never get off the story of Joe Biden and the debate, and here we are, way off the story, and things have absolutely changed. Well, David, thanks for joining with us, and again, you're going to have a very busy election year.